get it to live feed on my Facebook group that I created for this. And so I had to pivot. Beauty of shiveting, as Danielle loves to say. Shiveting. Hi, good morning, and welcome to day 3 of Rise to Radiance. And I am so grateful to have you all here. And today is another big day. And so I just wanted to reflect on yesterday's and just be in gratitude for all the lessons and shares that were given, and ask anybody if they integrated any of the stuff that we discussed yesterday. And if you want to share in the chat. Oh, wow. Awesome. Limiting beliefs. You started anew. That's amazing. I love that you are taking yourself on like that, Janet. All right, so I want to start with a welcome breath today, just to get ourselves grounded in the intention so that we can be open to receive the knowledge that will be shared here today. So taking a deep breath in your nose, and then slowly for 6 counts, release. Now set your intention for today. Letting go of all the to-do lists, letting go of anything that might be on your mind that is affecting your calm, centered mind. Release it, let it go. And honor yourself with the 3 hours that you'll be here so that you can fully be present to receive, to have shifts in your life for the positive. Take one moment to think of one thing you're grateful for, one thing you're looking forward to, one thing that brings joy to you during the holidays. And put that in your heart as you put your hands in your chakra, your heart center. Just say thank you. And take one more deep breath in. And as you release it, allow yourself to just let go and sink in your heart. Okay, thank you. All right, so I wanted to start today right away introducing my very first guest. And I'm excited to have this next person coming up. He is a good friend of mine, and I am so excited to be able to introduce him. And I get to find his, see, here I go, not being prepared as I thought I was. His name is Eric Antoinette, and Eric managed to retire at the age of 42 from a 20-year newspaper career when a greater calling took over. He delved into meditation and yoga and has been a yoga teacher for the last 16 years. He is also a Reiki master and studied in India for 1.5 years to become a regression therapist. He is a graduate of Hardcore Leadership Program and has coached the leadership program several times. What a blessing. Eric is now an anger management specialist trained to deal with court-mandated cases and uses his knowledge to teach people how to use the energy of anger to gain insight into their triggers and use that energy positively to live a fulfilled, peaceful, and harmonious life. Please help me welcome my first guest speaker and dear friend, Eric Antoinette.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Margarita. And thank you for inviting me here. I'm really honored and touched to be here with all of you today. So I just want to share that my passion for life is really to create 10-on-10 relationships. And as you can tell from some of my background, That's really what I am passionate about doing and studying and learning and growing, because it really is always a learning and studying process and a growth process. And I get to live it. I also get to live it in my life. So I'm with a partner now for 4 years, where I have been living that relationship, a 10-on-10 relationship. Yes, awesome. It really is awesome. So I get to, on a daily basis, practice what it is that I preach to my clients. And so I want to talk a little bit about what it takes to create that 10-on-10 and what we get to clean up really in our relationships before we even get there. So everybody wants to be in a 10-on-10, but there's usually a lot of cleanup that gets to happen. So the people that I see are quite often, from my anger management cases, they're in turbulent types of relationships, and we don't really know how to handle our triggers and our anger. And so today I want to be able to share with you all some of the tools that I give my clients so that they can create the 10-on-10 relationships that I love creating in people's lives. So with that being said, here's kind of a list of things that get to come out of our relationships. And this was some of this work that I do is based on a study by John Gottman. Some of you may know him. He's a well-known relationship counselor, and he talks about the 4 horsemen. And the 4 horsemen are the apocalypse to what destroys relationships. And they include things like criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, and contempt. So those are the 4 horsemen. So criticism means, I'm attacking you, you never do this, you always do that. Those kinds of words, anything that starts with a you and we're directing it at the person that we're in relationship with is a criticism. And then that's usually followed by defensiveness. So, yes, I do it sometimes, or there's a defensive position that's taken from the criticism. And we know that whenever that starts to happen, we enter into what's called the fight, flight, or freeze syndrome. So whenever we get into an argument, we're entering into fight, flight, or freeze. And we know that you probably know from your past history that being in any kinds of those discussions where we're criticizing and becoming defensive, that there's usually no good outcome that comes from that point. And so what happens from there usually is what we call stonewalling, which is a combination of things. It's not listening to our partner, so kind of formulating the response that we are going to have based on their attack. We're already out of listening mode, and we're formulating the answer to whatever it is we're being criticized about. And the other way we stonewall is just to become silent, right? To use the silent treatment in our relationships when we're mad about something, or even as kind of a punishment to our partner. I'm not going to talk to you until you do this or you do that, or you change in this way or that way. And then even worse than that in the study by Gottman was the 4th horseman, which is contempt. And that is a basic underlying disrespect for the other person that we're in relationship with. So when we're yelling at them, we're screaming at them, we're calling them names, we even if we get, in worst case scenarios, physically aggressive with them, that there is really an underlying disrespect. And that is what he kind of red flags as, if that's in your relationship, there's a really high, like a 90% chance that your relationship's going to end. So those are the kind of 4 things that we want to make sure don't exist in our relationship. And it's super hard. Like, who hasn't been critical? Who hasn't been defensive? Who hasn't stonewalled? Who hasn't been in contempt? And so really, I just want to bring this today as an awareness in your relationships today. Like, where does this exist? Where does it exist in you? How are you contributing to that in your relationships? And how can you put an end to it? Or how do we put an end to it? And so that's kind of the next segue into how we start to create the relationships that we want. So the first thing is awareness, right? That's how I'm being. And and then stopping, noticing like that we are actually in fight, flight, or freeze syndrome when we are criticizing or defensive or stonewalling or being in contempt of our partner, noticing that that's where we're at, and that we need to regulate our nervous system. That it's at that time that we want to even stop the discussion, tell our partner that we're triggered, tell them that we need time to regulate and come back into the logical brain, because it's the amygdala part of our brain that gets activated when we're in fight, flight, or freeze. And we know, like I said, nothing good comes from that place. So we get to regulate from there. We get to stop the discussion and regulate. And there's lots of different ways to do that. We actually want to be in separate rooms. There's a great breath work we can do, which is an inhale of 4 and an exhale of 8, kind of like you were doing at the beginning of the class, Margarita, or the beginning of our session today. Breath work is amazing for regulating our nervous system and coming back to our logical selves. To examine our trigger at that point, to see like what's underneath, why am I so upset? What is really bothering me? And how do I what is it that I really need? We really want to get to the requests that we have of our partner at that point in time. And to also think about what's a win-win scenario. What would be a win-win scenario if I were to think about it from my partner's standpoint? What's really going on with them, and what is it that they really need in that situation? And what is it that I really need in that situation? And even how am I responsible for creating what I just created? Because if I started to get into that fight, I'm responsible for it. I co-created it. So if I could even come from a place of responsibility to come back to my partner after regulating my nervous system and saying, hey, you know what? This is how I contributed to our fight today, and I'm sorry, and I want to clean this up. And this is really what I need. And I can understand why you're upset. I can feel what you're feeling. I can understand why you feel the way you feel. And this is probably what you might need in this situation. So imagine coming back to having a discussion like that, rather than a win-lose type of fight where, one partner wants to win and make the other a loser, which we know doesn't work in relationships either, because who wants to be on the losing end of an argument? Right? I certainly don't want to be, and I certainly don't want to make my partner feel like they lost, because when that happens, we know that there's going to be a resentment not far behind, right? If I make my partner lose a fight, there's going to be a resentment. So the last little thing I want to talk about is communication styles, because our communication style is super important. And the way the way I described how we come back is what we call the assertive style of communication. It means that I'm actually coming to my partner with a request. I'm coming not triggered, and I'm respectfully asking for what it is that I need. That's the assertive style of communication. There's 3 other styles that don't work when we're communicating, and we're triggered when we use them. And the first one's a little bit hard to understand, that we're triggered when we use it, because we're not really using it. It's what we call the passive style of communication, meaning I don't ask for what it is that I need. I'm triggered by a certain situation, but I don't ask for the change that I'm looking for. And so we know that passive doesn't work, because what ends up happening after long enough time, when I'm not asking for what it is that I need, I start to become resentful. Right? I start to resent the fact that I'm not getting what I want, and I'm resentful towards myself, and there's anger that's self-directed, which is going to end up exploding inappropriately at another point in time. So we know passive style doesn't work. The next style is what we call passive aggressive. And again, these are all styles we've all used, right? Guilty, guilty, guilty. So passive aggressive just means I'm sarcastic. I'm kind of sarcastically asking for what I want, or sarcastically telling you that I never get what it is that I need. So that style doesn't work. And passive aggressive could also mean I'm going to tell you that I'm going to do something, but then I don't end up doing it. Right? So I'm passive, I don't do, and it's aggressive way of being. I don't do what you're really asking me to do. So we know that doesn't work either, because again, that's going to lead to another fight. And then the final style that doesn't work is aggressive style. So aggressive means I'm bullying you. I could be name calling you. I could be belittling you, making fun of you. It's along the lines of a criticism, but it's a little bit heavier than a criticism. And in the worst case scenarios, which are some of the ones that I deal with in anger management, it gets physical, right? It can be a physical aggression. So we know that we're triggered whenever we're in those styles, right? If I'm passive and I'm not saying anything, I'm triggered. If I'm passive aggressive, I'm triggered. If I'm aggressive, I'm triggered. So again, this is really all about noticing, am I in those communication styles? And if I am, how can I stop? Right? How can I stop and then come into the assertive style of communication and really request what it is that I'm looking for? And so when we can clean up all that, there's a lot to clean up, right? There's a lot to clean up. The four horsemen and the communication styles that don't work. This is really when we get into being in a peaceful, loving relationship. Because now I'm in a place where I can still have fun in my relationship, right? I can still like enjoy my relationship, but do it from an assertive style of communication where I'm respectfully communicating to my partner what it is that I need. I'm not passive aggressive. I'm not aggressive. I'm not passive. Everything's out in the open. We're authentic with each other. We're open because we're not worried about being criticized by our partner. We're not worried about defensiveness. And so that's my dream. That's where I get to bring as many people in the world to that place as possible. And that's why I'm here today. That's what I get to share with you. Any of you have questions about that?
Yes, anybody have questions? Or I do. How would you recommend somebody starting the process of like checking in and then being able to shift? Like, is there besides the breathing, is there another like way of thinking to help shift into not being right, not having to be right about a situation? I think a lot of us, for me, up until now, I was like, well, I'm right about the way I feel. And so I'm going to stick to my guns until he says I'm sorry. Or he gets to say I'm sorry. And so I noticed that that was continuing the battle. And then I was being left with resentment because I had expectation of something. So is there anything you can talk about around that, like how to shift that?
Well, the first thing I would say is you are right about how you feel. You're always right about how you feel. Your feelings are your feelings. And often we're in a fight really because we want someone else to validate the way we're feeling, right? And we don't get it. And that's really part of what's at the root of our arguments. I like to say we're never really fighting about the thing we're fighting about. We're fighting about how that thing makes us feel. And we're trying to communicate that to our partner, and we're not getting validation. Right. So that's one place where we get to go with our partners is how can we, so we being the source of things, how can we even begin that process ourselves, right? When somebody's coming to us with a problem or we see that we're in a fight, we can take that approach with them. Like, let me understand what you're going through and let me understand how that feels for you and validate it, right? Because often that's all we're looking for in a fight is for somebody to understand how we feel. And when we can do that, already we're creating peace and harmony in our relationship. The other piece that I think you're talking about is regulating our nervous system. So once we notice we're in that right-wrong fight, how do we regulate our nervous system? So one of the ways I talked about was the breath work. The other way is we want to actually communicate that time out to our partner. We want to be able to say, you know what, I'm triggered and I need a half an hour to calm down so that I can actually come back and talk to you about this and talk to you about it from a win-win scenario. So there's lots of ways to regulate. There's breath work, there's listening to music, there's going for a walk in nature. There could be journaling, exercise, meditation is great. There's lots of different ways to bring our nervous system back into the parasympathetic state, the calm, clear, logical part of ourselves.
Beautiful. Paula, you have a question?
You're on mute.
So like Eric, you are I don't know entirely the distinctions between right brain and left brain, but there are distinctions between brain and feelings, energy. Cool. So like, I hear what you're saying. And would it be cool if I perhaps shined a light in a way that would serve me? For instance, what I'm hearing you say is, in the moment, as soon as there's some heat and there's some energy, I'm hearing you say, take action in self-soothing. Go take 30 minutes. Go cool your jets. Then I'm also hearing you say, be curious with your partner. Really, what am I hearing? What do you need? Right? So like right now, I feel great because it's like, woo, first comes me. I get to look after me. Woo, then comes my partner who I do love unconditionally. I am curious. I do want to know. And so like where there is, I'm just trying to land the energy and the feelings behind your delivery of process. Cool? Because like process eludes me, but you telling me I'm going to feel great by choosing me first? Woo, I take that all day. And then you're telling me that I get to show up powerfully for my partner by being curious. I can handle that. That's so easy. So thank you. I appreciate it. I'm complete.
Thank you for bringing the energy, Paula. You did it beautifully, much better than I could. Thank you.
Teamwork, baby, teamwork.
All right. Love it.
Thanks. Thank you, Paula, for that. That was great. Yeah, there were some great takeaways that I got on here. And one of the things that I think you and I talked about was neutrality, right? And because I've heard people say not to have expectations because that's a future resentment, but you worded it very beautifully for me about expectations with neutrality. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, 100%. So it is okay to have expectations. There's nothing wrong with having expectations. So the neutrality that we get to bring around it is, I'll be okay if I get my expectation. I'll be okay if I don't get my expectation. And it's really about being prepared for the no, right? Knowing that the no is possible, but I'm still going to be okay if I get a no. And where do I get to go from there? I get to look at what worked in my process of towards getting to my expectation, and what didn't work towards my process of getting to my expectation. So something worked, something always works, even if it's just trying to get there, and something doesn't work. And so I get to look at the process of it rather than the end result, because I still want the end result, and there's nothing wrong with wanting the end result. But I get to look at the process, what worked, what didn't work. And if I get a no, well, yes, I understand a no is a no, but where do I get to go from there? What win-win could I still create from the no that I'm getting? Make sense?
Yes, this does. Any other takeaways or questions? Edith, you have a question? Or your takeaway?
I wanted to actually mention or recircle back to the note that Eric spoke about ignoring, like when you feel that you either being poked at or shouted at, what would you, instead of ignoring that, how would you communicate to that person if you are being triggered by somebody? Because that's my natural response to one of the family members. And when I hear that, I choose to step away from that situation, but without communicating how I'm feeling, and ignore it and just turn around and leave. Sometimes in a rush, I gotta go.
Right. Excellent question, because in that situation, you get to communicate that it is your need for the timeout because you're triggered by them yelling at you. Right. So yeah. I get to own the fact that I'm triggered by you yelling at me, and I get to tell them, listen, you're yelling at me right now and it's triggering me, and I need time to cool my jets, as Paula so eloquently says, and I need to take my time out. And then when I'm calm, then I can come back into listening mode, right? Because you can't do it when you're triggered. It's not possible. It's not going to go anywhere. So when you've calmed down, then you can come back and be curious and open about, okay, so now I'm in a place where I can hear you and you can tell me more about what's bothering you and you can tell me more about what you're feeling. And so in this scenario, we're just in listening mode, right? We're just in listening mode and we're in validation mode. Yeah, I understand that how this happened. This is how you feel in that situation. I can understand that, right? We're being empathetic. We're being open. We're listening. But the communicated timeout is the piece that's missing for you, because when we don't communicate it, it can actually be triggering to the other person, right? I'm walking away from a fight and they're going to want to try and pull me back in, right? Where are you going? Like, don't you care about this problem? You're abandoning me. Like, you're abandoning this situation. Don't you want to solve it, right? They're going to be triggered by you just walking away. So the communication of the timeout is 100% necessary, so that things don't again escalate from where they already are.
But that particular person, of course, it's a reflection, because I get to look at that as a reflection of me, and that person usually looks at negative and points out negative, what things are not working and what she thinks is not working for me, which is really strange for her. Like, she is being judgmental.
Right. So there's kind of a manipulative behavior, and we all kind of get to notice this in our daily interactions, right? How am I trying to change another person so that I feel differently, right?
Yeah.
So when somebody's behavior triggers me, I want to change them so I feel differently. So instead of her allowing to go through the criticisms, like, you can hear the criticisms, and I understand it's really difficult not to become defensive in that situation. But at the end of listening, it's okay. Do you have a request? What's your request of me? Right? Because they do want something to change, right? That's why they're being critical. They want something to change, but they're not getting to what the change is. They're not asking for it. So assertive communication style, I get to respectfully ask for what it is I need. So what is your request of me?
Right. Thank you. Yeah, that would be a huge shift in our conversation.
We want to get to the win-win, right? And again, it doesn't mean you need to say yes to her request.
No.
Right? Because you don't want to go out of alignment with yourself, because you're going to end up being resentful. But you get to stay in alignment with you. And if your yes is a yes, great. But if it's a no, it gets to be no, and something else gets to be worked out. Some other kind of win-win scenario.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'll practice that next time.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, and that brought up a thing for me. I was like being fully responsible in that space and asking. My takeaways are great, like listening and then validating them. One thing that's supporting me is to also see them in like their hurt and not making it about me. Because I think we have a tendency to make it about us, the other person's response. It's like, oh, we're wrong. We're not good enough. We did, like, oh my gosh. And in reality, like, I think you talk about this with me the other time. It's like, it's really not about us. And we keep making it about us. So when you can just stop, see them in their hurt, see, like, try to step into like how their day was. Maybe they have something in their mind or they are exhausted. And being able to just see it like in that lens with empathy and compassion, like you talked about, and being open to the possibility that, oh, maybe it wasn't about me. And that for me frees me up so much, and not being in the self beat up and criticizing myself and like they're like, what did I do wrong? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that this keeps happening, and what am I doing? And so is there anything else you want to tie that in just to support people?
100%. It never is about us, but we're always taking things personally. So there was I'm not sure if I shared this example with you, but I recently shared this with another client who came to me and said like how he was taking things personally with his wife. And I said to him, well, you know, if some stranger off the street calls you a name, calls you an asshole, pardon my expression, right? You know, how do you take it? Well, he says, well, I never met the person before. I don't take it personally, right? But if your partner calls you that, your husband or your wife calls you that, well, it's a whole other ball game, isn't it? And so the tendency in our intimate relationships as we get closer and closer is to take things more personally. But the truth is, whatever comes out of the other person's mouth is about them. It's not about you. And so there is a tendency to want to take things personally the closer and closer we get to our intimate relationships. And the truth is, it's not personal. And that's a really hard one to understand for a lot of people, but it is personal. Like, it is about me. Well, is it really? Well, maybe it is in a way, because if somebody calls me an asshole and I really believe I am, right, then I'm gonna take it personally, because it is personal, because I believe it. But if I have zero belief that I am, then I'm not going to take that personally, am I?
It's true. I love that. So, Eric, I appreciate your time and giving generosity. How can people reach out to you if they want to work with you, or just see more of what you do? For the people that are not in our group, just make sure.
Yes, awesome. Yeah. Well, you see my name here, Eric Antoinette. You can find me there on Facebook. I could leave a email in the chat if that works. I don't know if that will work. Will that work?
It will work for the people in the room. But yeah, the website is great for people live streaming outside.
Yeah, I can leave my website also on in the chat here, if that works.
Great. All right. Well, if there are any other questions, all right. Thank you again so much for starting us off on a great note of remembering how to be assertive in our lives and to have neutrality and to choose the relationship over being right. So thank you for that. Those are the three things that really landed for me. So
my pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Yes.
Love you all.
What were your takeaways? Oh my gosh, what a beautiful start so far. And so that brings me to just really thinking about how, like, take a moment to think how you can be neutral, how you can shift your ways of being in the moment. Like you talked about, like telling and being like, hey, look, I'm being triggered. Like last night I got triggered and I was like, I'm going to bed because I'm getting upset. And this morning I woke up and I realized, I was exhausted, because I started crying. I got really emotional about it. I was like, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I know he's tired. He's exhausted. He had a long day. So in that moment, I realized, yeah, it's not about me. Because normally my old way of being would be, I'm going to hold a grudge all day until he apologizes or acknowledges how he made me feel. And my experience has been that I get let down. Right. And so then one day turns into two, turns into three. And then I've missed out on connecting with the person that I love the most in the world, besides my children, of course. And so what I've learned is that it's not worth it, right? Because we have such limited time here with the people that we love. We never know when they're going to go. And there's so many people hurting and suffering in the world right now that is such a true reality for all of us. With the rate of suicide that happens influxed during the holidays. When you have people that are pushing you away and not calling you back or disappearing from your circle of friends, like, don't take it personally. Maybe they are depressed and feeling alone and hopeless, and they're calling and crying out for help. And that's where I was. I feel like perhaps my friends think that I was too good for them. I was too busy for them. And I didn't care about them. But in reality, I didn't think I was worthy of their friendship. I thought I was not good enough, that I was a burden, that I create conflict everywhere I go. And that, of course, that story was not true. It was rooted in those beliefs that were ingrained in us as children. by having criticism and judgment of others who were just expressing their own limiting beliefs, right? And so going through this transformational work that we've gone through in this group here, it's been really empowering to be able to take back power and be the creator of my reality and not a victim of circumstance. And there's so much power there because I'm no longer waiting for validation outside of myself to say that I'm good enough or that I have value to offer, because I took the time to go in and fill myself up.
Mhm.
And it took me asking the question, is it real? Is it true that I'm not worthy? Is it true that I have no value? Is it really true that I suck and that I'm a burden? Like, just ask the people that you have a good relationship with to give you feedback about how you show up for them. If you want validation, if you need validation and are seeking validation, that's one way to start. Go to the people that you love and that you have a good relationship with, and just ask them for feedback, right? And it gets to be neutral again, right? Because it's they're seeing it through their lens of whatever limiting belief they have, right? And if you have someone that you trust that you have not such a great relationship with, to be honest in a loving way, to give you feedback of how you don't show up in the best light, there's power there too. It's not about being critical about yourself because of it. In that moment, you get to sit in and go, I am responsible for that. What is underneath that? Why do I show up this way? It's because I feel not good enough. It's because I need to look good. And so those are all the things that we start to think in our heads that stop us from being authentic. And that's what stops us from being able to be assertive and asking for what we need without there being an energy behind it of aggression or passivity. And it's never going to be good for anybody, for you or for the person that you're talking to or in connection with. It just creates more disconnect. And you guys we end up blaming one another instead of really saying, wow, I am really responsible in how I can show up for this person, for myself. It's really about showing up for them, for you, because it's your authentic desires. Like my authentic desire is to be in a space where my husband and I can have disagreements, because that's the real life. We all have moments where life happens and we get triggered. But being able to speak and discuss in a space of understanding and love and compassion. Like, for instance, the other day, he comes in and he starts going on his list of criticism for me. You didn't do this, you've done that, and I've told it for years, and oh my gosh. And before I would get in the whole, oh my gosh, I'm going in my hole, and I'm gonna hide because, wow, I suck. But in that moment, I was like, I saw him in his 6-year-old self. I saw him hurt. I saw him in his fears. I saw him in his pain. And that gave me so much compassion for him. And I had such empathy in that moment that I did exactly what you had said earlier, Eric, about just acknowledging and validating how he felt in that moment. And being responsible for how I might have created that for him. And you know what that did? I saw his shoulders soften. And then he takes an out breath of like sigh and relief of, oh my gosh, I was just heard. And then what that created is for him, he felt seen, he felt heard and loved in that moment. So instead of creating a huge flare up and a fight where like yelling and screaming and not talking for a week, it was instantly a moment where he was just able to express his feelings. I didn't take it personally. I saw him in his light and I validated his feelings, responsible for them. And he And then he shifted his ways of being the rest of the day. And he was in a loving space towards me because of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a win-win situation. When I could have easily been the victim of it, I was like, no, I'm going to be empowered. And in doing so, it empowered him. It empowered him to step into his greatness, his light. So I just wanted to say this work really does impact and change how you experience the world. When you change and you shift yourself, everybody else around you almost feels like they shift too, because it's just how you're presenting yourself and your energy. And so if you want love in your life, you give love. If you want generosity and abundance, you give that. What are you giving in the world? What are you giving out there in the world, especially at the holidays when people feel alone, hurt, suffering, grieving? How are you showing up for these people? How are you gifting them with your presence in your heart and holding them high in their light instead of breaking them down with more criticism? We all self-beat up all the time. We're self-beat up. We're our worst critics. We don't need those people in our lives to bring us down anymore. And that's not going to change until we change. Until we change how we are being. So I just want to invite you to drop down into your heart and really see your way of being. How are you being? How are you creating your stress? How is it that you're creating disconnect? How is it that you're creating all this overwhelm? Because you're creating it. It's in your head. So it's time to see your light. It's time to see your greatness. And it's time to see how responsible you can be for your life and take action. There's so much power in that. So much power in taking back the power and not letting others, people, or situations dictate. There's always crap that's going to happen in the world. And if you're going to be the one who's going to vacillate and just see how the world is going to show up for you to figure out how you're going to show up, well, I'm sorry, my friend. You're going to live in disharmony, pain, and sorrow if you're going to do that. So I invite you, take control of your mind in the moments that seem hard. That's where you get to stretch. That's when you get into the uncomfortable and then you see that you're safe at the end, it gives you confidence to do it more and more and more because you are safe, because you're being heard. And you know what it does? There's a side effect that happens, I've noticed, is that it really does build your self-worth and self-esteem. Because you see how powerful you are as a person and shifting another person's way of being. Just by smiling at someone can make, or like even just saying hi and taking the time to get to know a stranger could save their life that day. Or it could empower them to do the same to someone else who in that in turn, they save someone's life as well. So it's really important to just remember how we're showing up. And if you want to show up in love, you get love. And so that brings me to my next beautiful guest. I have Jasmine Therese Esguerra here with me today. She is actually my buddy. And I can't wait to hear her speak around this topic. And so I just want to talk to you about her. Her name is Jasmine Therese Esguerra. Jasmine is a doctor of chiropractic and the founder of Pure Wellness LLC and the Well Made Foundation. She lives on Maui, so jelly, and it's from a lineage of healing women with 3 adult daughters. Her mission is to help families bring wellness home with hands-on, heart-based healing skills. I just love that. Please help me welcome Jasmine.
Hello. Hello, thank you, Margarita, for for creating this stage, and thank you for our audience and the people who are listening in. Thank you. I think it's amazing that Beth and Henry just hopped on too, because they have been my breathing buddies and were with me yesterday as we resurrected our own spirit and our heart last night. Thank you. For everyone who's here, I'm very grateful to share a little bit about our lineage and why I am passionate and what the purpose that I have in my heart. The timing is perfect. Last night, we're just coming off the wings of Hanukkah. So last night we lit the first candle of 8. I don't know if you know that story, but it just in general, God gave this group of beautiful people who were saving their people just enough. Supposedly they had just enough oil to last one night. So that would have been last night. And they had 8 more days. So they had 8 days, and it made the biggest difference for them. It was a miracle of how long that light lasted. And I'm going to share with you a couple stories to help you get an insight into my magical world. I was raised by my grandmother, more or less my grandmother. I'm first American-born grandchild from both my mom's side and my dad's side. And my mom came out here when she was 3 months pregnant, and I was like her smuggled carry-on. She was until she was in Hawaii, and like, aloha, here I am. And I can only imagine, because she was only 19 years old. She has a twin sister. She has 15 other brothers and sisters. They're moving to the United States. She finds out she's pregnant, and my grandmother's like, "You're pregnant. You need to go back to the Philippines and marry that man. And as much as I love you, you're not coming." So I could have been her ticket. I could have been her ticket off the plane. But my grandmother saw my mom crying, and she's like, "No, immigration, we're going to take one more." So here we go. And just the power of love and the power of feeling and lineage. I don't know if you guys, especially this time of year where you just get your invitation from your grandma to dinner and you already feel better. You didn't even get in your car yet. Like, you can smell the food, you can remember the music, right? You know she loves you. And I'm just as far as my passion and purpose, it's all around love. Because I'm from what you would have called a lineage of just write them off. Like, what are the chances they're going to make it, right? Because my grandmother and grandfather on my mom's side, they were both orphaned. My grandmother orphaned by the time she was 8 years old. My mom, of all the 16 kids, was considered the sickest because she was epileptic. So I grew up with mom saying, "Don't get near the stairs. Don't touch the dog. Don't touch the stove. Like, don't," because she grew up where she could have a seizure anytime. And she couldn't even swim. So it's like, so I, at a young age, and some people we're talking about the young age, like at a young age, I had a lot of conditioning where her love was like suffocating me. Her love was isolating me, packaging me, trying to protect me. And I get it. And then my grandmother, as much as she loved me, she's like, "Pray, pray, pray," and God love her. She's like, "Pray, pray, pray," because the moment you stop praying, the devil's just going to snatch you and do awful things. And that's a scary thing to say to a kid who ends up being molested, and ends up having incest. So I felt like that was my fault. I felt like if I could have just prayed better, I can't tell anybody this dark thing. I didn't pray enough. I didn't believe enough. And that last thing I need to do is give my mom a problem. So how many kids, right, have that? Or how many of you are just like, "I can't share that dark thing. Like, it's too dark, it's too heavy, it's too hurtful." it's like I just want to forget. And I mean, what I've noticed and known and seen in life is like if you're willing to face the light, face the problem, you got so much love coming right back at you. And then every time you turn away from it and run, that shadow, if you ever tested it, try it in the sun today. If you run from the light, that shadow gets bigger and bigger. The further you get from that light, that shadow like is like, oh my God, it's bigger than the whole building. But as soon as you in that moment, if you could just pivot and turn towards the light, the closer you get to it, first of all, you don't see your shadow. And then you have this renewing source that's here to love you and care for you. And if that's not the sun, when that's not the sun, that's someone who loves you. That's someone who is willing to take whatever you do. And that's how you know you love somebody. Who's ever been like really in love with somebody, and you know because they do something really nasty or they do something gross or they don't look good, and you're like, but you're still so cute and you're a mess. You look crazy. And that's how I know I love you, because you were like, you just made a fool of yourself. It's so good. That's like the test of love. And it's so funny. It's like, when are you, when you don't think that somebody's like gonna love you, that's how you know like that, then they must really love me. So I'm gonna share with you, you touched a little bit about suicide. It's a really tender place in my topic for me right now, because I was in our leadership program, and that we had what was considered practice one, where we apply things that we learn. And our practice ended on the day that Maui was on fire. So second day, practice one, it's 2 days. And I get a phone call from my friend, and he's like, Jazz, you didn't leave your car key with me, and your car is in the fire zone. Like, it's like they asked us to evacuate. And I was like, what are the chances that would happen, right? That doesn't happen on a regular basis. So all day long while we're in training, I'm like, should I have my car towed? Should I fly home and take care of this? All this stuff. And all the tragedy. We've all heard the tragedy of what actually happened on Maui, right? And we have people taking their lives now. And I'll be honest with you, it's like, there were times when I had to do a self-health check, and I'm like, am I up for this? I mean, does this ego have legs, or is this just ego and I can't get out of, because it doesn't make sense for me to show up and be another casualty. So do I have some muscle in this? Am I more than just fluff? Am I here to show up and carry some weight? And I'll share with you, like, I couldn't keep myself. Like, as soon as I called my friend, I called one of my dearest friends who was my mentor, and I heard that it went from one fire in where my car was to Lahaina, which is an hour away. And I called him, and I was like, are you okay? And this guy jokes all the time. And he's like, I'm watching my house burn down. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, don't F with me right now. Like, don't joke. And he's like, I am not joking. He says, I got my wife and my grandkids and my passport and my wallet, and we're on our way, and we're watching our house burn behind us. And I'm like, and I couldn't help myself. If there was a plane that was leaving that moment on 8/8, I would have been on the plane. But I was like, I'll be on the first plane tomorrow. And I couldn't sleep, all the news. And then I'm waiting for my Uber. It's taking a long time. I start to walk to meet my Uber on his way to get me. I was like, pick me up. Get me on that plane, right? And I was early. And then it's the first time I ever landed with firefighting air helicopters next to me, and they're like, we got to let the air helicopter land. We got to let this, we have all these other people waiting, smoke in the air, chaos, like, and my kids, messaging me like, what are you doing? Don't you love us? We're not there. What are you doing flying into the fire? Have you forgotten your kids are over here in California? Why are you flying that way? And that's where we talk about purpose and passion. Like I couldn't, like it would take a 10,000-pound gorilla to sit on my head for me not to show up. Because I was like, I'm sorry, like this is what I was made for. You will find out in the pressure what you were made for. You will learn your direction. So for whatever reason you don't have pressure, you're not in your lane yet, right? So something will light you up on fire where you're like, I have to go somewhere. Can you imagine lighting a firework and it's not going to move? It's going to move. Once you are lit, believe it or not, whether you like it or not, guess what? You are directional. You are a projection. So I was lit, and just moved, and then the beauty of finding where I met people for a reason, and I was helping people who were, interestingly enough, from California and didn't have a place to stay. People were not told what was going on. So that's just one example of Maui and the Maui fires, and why and what happens when all of a sudden you know your purpose. All of a sudden you have passion. So it's worth waiting and staying idle, because guess what? Don't worry, when it's God's time to call on you, he's going to use every drop you've got. Everything you got. He'll be like, what else you got? He will shake you out and squeeze you and then smack it around and then squeeze you some more. What else you got? What else you got? Because just trust me, I know what that's like. Don't worry. If you're in the waiting, then your job is nutrition, sleep, loving on people, and just like doing the workout. Like it's coming. I know my moment's coming, and I'm going to be ready, and I'm going to love people up, and I'm going to show up, and I'm not going to back down. So that was Maui. Just checking our time, and shaking a little bit about it. The reason why I'm going to speak to you a little bit about courage and being the light in the dark. Because, we have our seasons, our good days and our bad days. And I grew up with this miracle story of my family, because grandma and grandpa fell in love. They had 16 kids. My mom and her twin are like number 7 and number 8, right in the heart of the family, right? Like out of 16, they're number 7 and number 8. And my mom is like this, the epileptic one, the one everybody prayed for so that she would carry this kid right here and she wouldn't like drop the kid. And so there's some pressure there. But when our family, it was in 2011 that I moved to the Bay Area, and we had a family member dying of cancer. And long story short, I worked and I worked and I worked, because I saw my uncle fight for his last breath. It's different when people pass, you understand what I mean? Like it's different when people pass or they go through a transition and they're like, okay, I'll go. But when they're fighting and they don't want to go, and then their fingers get peeled off the wire, and they're like, sorry, they get pushed out of the way. They're like, sorry, you don't want to die, but it's your time. I'm taking you. It's so hard. And I had never experienced anything like that. So I show up and I'm like, you know what, God? You might be mad at a family member, but I'm not. You might like have a problem with that, but I'm going to love them anyway. So just in case God wasn't watching, I was like, I'm going to stay awake. Just in case he's mad at somebody, I'm going to be that bridge, right? Is what I thought I was trying to do. And what that looked like was me working till 1 a.m., falling asleep with my hands on somebody, then being like, did you fall asleep? And I'm like wiping the drool off. No, right? And it was crazy. It's okay. It's okay. You have to work till you work the midnight shift. I'll take care of you after. Like crazy. And I was a mom and I was commuting 4 hours each day. Crazy. Like that's not logical. But I have to admit, and this is where you get the difference between purpose, passion, and ego, or when you're driven, the difference between being driven from fear and being driven from love, is I was like, when I realized we lost one of the 16 of the sweet 16, I'm just like, it was so joyful when it was birthdays, but I didn't even realize what 16 funerals could look like. And they're like, he's dying of lung cancer, and they're all outside smoking. And I'm like, and eating like donuts. I was like, don't eat donuts. Like, that feeds cancer. And I was like, don't smoke. Right. But it's okay. It's okay because I'll save you. Right. And that's the whole thing. And I clearly failed because people are going to be successful at what they want to be successful at. And loving the truth of them, loving the realness of them, loving even the ugly of them, loving their bad choices and being like, I love you and I'd wish you chose differently. I'm going to be authentic with you and I'll be here after that. I'll be here through that. I'll be here in spite of that. So in the midst of this, I'm just sharing with you like the reality and the power behind our words, because I actually spiraled to a point of double pneumonia and pleurisy. I lost my kids. I had to send them to their dad because I couldn't breathe. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do carpool. Clearly, I can't do carpool. I can't breathe. So guess who can't do carpool? Guess who cannot show up at work anymore? And the most painful thing of a giver is when you can't give anymore. And guess what? You're not replenished because you were fed by fear instead of love. I was like, that's a fuel that does not work. And bottom line is I was in a hot bath with eucalyptus oil trying to breathe. And my hair was stopping wet, just like it's wet right now, but I'm in a healthier place. And I was curled up in my daughter's bunk bed, missing her so much. Like the last thing that I thought you could take from me is my kids. And they went to Texas and I was in California. And in my mind's eye, like I could hear, it's like what physically felt like was like I swam, I took all the energy that I had to swim to shore when I had been drowning, and I just made it. And then in my mind's eye too, could hear this like this thunder and this lightning and this tsunami coming. And I was like, oh crap. I was like, I am not going to make this one. So whatever is coming, like this next roll of fever or whatever is coming, I've got like, I don't have anything left. Have you ever been like, I'm done. I don't have anything left. And then of all things, I felt the spirit come for me, the same spirit that came for me when I miscarried my child before my 3 daughters. And I was like, oh no. Like in that moment, like this was total come to Jesus moment. I'm not ready for you to take me. It's like, there's no one else in this room. You're here for me. I'm not pregnant. You're here for me. And in that moment I pleaded, I was like, God, like I'm not done. I don't know me yet. My kids haven't known me yet. My life hasn't known me yet. My family they don't know me yet. I didn't show up yet. And in that moment I said, like, something in my heart was like, I can do all things through God who strengthens me. And then I was aware of this pinpoint, I kid you not, it was a pinpoint white light in the middle of my chest. And I was like, oh my God, that's all I got. That's that little thing right there, that little dot. And it's funny because later I talked to my friend who was who survived like some brain injury. And he cracked up and he's like, oh my God, that's all you got? He says, you're right, Jazz, that's all you got. But that's enough. I was scared. So he's like, oh my God, that's all I got. And then I said, as I said, I can do all things through God who strengthens me. All of a sudden, because my lungs were so tired, from working and from pneumonia and from grief and from pain. And then all of a sudden I felt God's breath, like I literally heard, and I felt God paint like the inside of my lungs. He painted these angel wings that went all the way across. And just really quickly, all the way across. And then my third eye lit up with bright white light, and I had to squint because it was so bright. And then I heard this, and then every cell in my body, every cell lit up with bright white light, and I passed out, and I woke up and the pneumonia was gone. So I'm just talking to you and sharing this with you in this moment, in your darkest moment. I'm asking you, just like Margarita said, to reclaim your life, reclaim your moment, and speak life into you. And that you can fall into trust. And that's what love really is. Love shows up in the pain and all of it. You're never alone. That's it. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that last thing you said, Jasmine, gave me full body chills. It's so powerful. And I loved how you tied it at the end. We first started talking about the celebration of light and how there's small little, fuel lasted 8 days. And you talked about like that little pinpoint of light inside of you. And that was all you needed to light yourself up and heal yourself from pneumonia. I mean, that's powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Thank you so much for being here and for being a yes. And for showing up so powerfully today. I appreciate you. Thank you. Oh, what was your takeaway from that story? Powerful, right? Oh my gosh, so much in there. Anybody want to share? If you do, you can just come off mute. All right. Well, let's just let that sink in for a minute. And give our love and take maybe 1 minute for those people who've lost their lives, who have taken their lives, and who need hope. Thank you. Oh, right. I want to shake that one off. Woo! Sometimes it really does help to shake it off. Shake off the energy. Shake off the grungies. Woo! All right. So I want to take this opportunity to introduce my next fabulous guest, who is also a good friend of mine, who is a thought leader, a change maker, a leader extraordinaire in his own right. He is a power communicator, and I am so honored to introduce Henry Garcia to the stage today. Henry is a sought-after speaker, known for his engaging and motivational style. His presentations are filled with actionable insights drawn from both personal experiences and extensive research. Believing firmly that perseverance can be cultivated, Coach Henry shares strategies and tools that empower individuals to navigate life's challenges with grit and grace. I just love that. Please help me welcome to the stage, Henry Garcia.
Hey, thanks for having me, Margarita. Blessed to be here at the Ignite Your Passion and Purpose Mastermind. When you sent the invite, I was like, yeah, I would love to, because I know how passionate you are and how much you lean into purpose and how much you really lean into ignite others in the same way. So I knew that this was an authentic message coming from you, from your heart, and I just wanted to be a part of it. So I thank you for allowing me to grace the stage for the next, 20 minutes or less. Super excited. So yeah, welcome everybody in the audience. Today is going to be a little bit of, it's on the move. I'm not sitting on my Zoom camera. I can't see you guys. So if you feel like I'm not connecting with the audience, we're just going to have to shift and deal with it. Persevere through it. All right. So I'm here to talk about perseverance. And when I think about perseverance, it's such a big thing. We could persevere through paying our rent and our bills, electricity being cut off. But we can also persevere through suicidal ideation, the loss of a loved one, natural disasters. There's a different kind of perseverance. So I just want to let you guys know that I'm present to that, and that I don't come in here with the intention to try to sell you perseverance. What I want to bring you into is an experience. I want to bring you into a little bit of my life. So I'm going to hit you with a little bit of the story of the perseverance. Whenever I need to persevere, I lean into this. It was 2017. I was I was in a network marketing firm, sales, direct marketing, on the brink of owning my own business, 6 figures. Like, it was great. I've been working at it. It was amazing. But I had a dark secret that I was a functional addict, and I was getting by, I don't know how. And there was this special guy that was a mentor that took me out of my home, got me out of my environment, and got me to see my true value. And he helped me when I couldn't persevere. He saw me. So fast forward, COVID happens. He ignited me to be able to, my passion and my purpose inside of me, to go and start following my vision and my dreams. Needless to say, COVID happens, and a lot of people dealt with a lot of things, and I lost them to a suicide overdose. I was just on the brink of getting healthy. I had just had a little bit of time, and I was just waiting. I was like, after Christmas, when everybody's not busy, I'm going to go and I'm going to go see him, and I'm going to knock on his door and it's like, dude, I'm here. Thank you. Only to find out that he had took his life a month earlier, and his family had hid it because they're very prominent. And it shook me to my core. I didn't know what to do. I felt like the one person that had my back was gone, and I felt like I failed him. So I had to make a decision. Am I going to persevere through this? Or am I going to let it kick my ass and throw me back to where he got me from? So I said, heck no. I'm going to persevere, and I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to knock on his son's door, because he just gave birth to a 1-year-old son that doesn't get to know how great his father was. So I'm going to show up there, and I'm going to give his son the biggest basket of flowers on his dad, to know that his dad contributed to the world and will continue to. I will open foundations in his name. Needless to say, that's when I chose to step into my moment of perseverance. That's when I chose to see what I was truly capable of and what I could make it through, because I didn't want to go through it without him. But he does not get to die in vain, and I get to honor his memory. That's why I'm on this stage right here in front of you. Mr. James Michael Kaminsky, I honor your memory, and I honor you as I talk for the next 17 minutes, whatever it is. So that's the perseverance that I'm familiar with, that I've experienced. So it's like, how can I come to the audience and make this something that you guys can apply to your lives? And I was thinking about it. Okay. I give him my heart, hope to inspire you that whatever you're going through, that you can persevere, that you are persevering already, even if you don't feel like it. Just the fact that you're standing here, that you're showing up, because most of the time the secret sauce to perseverance is just showing up. No matter what the cost, no matter what odds, no matter what obstacle, no matter what problems in your way, no matter what you might fail at, no matter what the opposition or the enemy in front of you is trying to blame, shame, or guilt you out of. Do not let the enemy blame, shame, or guilt you out of your vision and your future and who you are destined to become. Because make no mistake, while people always have this issue of understanding, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? I look at purpose as that's your end result that you're going to accomplish. It's not something you're being right now. Your purpose is your identity in motion. Because when you're operating with a purpose of where you want to go, your identity stands strong and shifts through every little problem possible, whether it's somebody dying, your electricity being turned off, or you don't feel great today, or you're sick, or you can't hear out of one ear. It doesn't matter. When you have that conviction, that belief in yourself that you're going to overcome every single obstacle, because I am not searching for my purpose. I am my purpose in motion. I am a walking, giving, loving, powerful leader that stands for love, freedom, and abundance. I contribute. I am generous, and I know you have it inside of you. And I want you to see me inside of you, see you inside of me. And I want to connect with you. So now I'm going to give you just a couple of things that are the mechanical aspects so that you can understand that there is some things that do get to be done. Perseverance cannot be done just off of willpower, magic, hope, or just anything else. It just can't. There has to be a certain method to do it. So let me take this off camera. Let me unblur. Oh, I'm fine. So the first thing that is important is that whenever you're persevering and you're going through, what's going to get you through these problems that you're persevering through is your language. That's the first thing. What do you say to yourself when problem and the enemy come to your face? Are you saying, oh, snap, I'm stuck, I'm screwed, I don't know what to do? Maybe you don't have anybody to lean on. Maybe that's why you're here. But it's in your language. The language in your thoughts. You got to be able to lead yourself through it. And you got to be able to control those thoughts and your language in your head so that when you come out, you profess success. You are not talking down on yourself. You are saying that no matter what is in my way, no matter what obstacle or opposition or names that are being said in front of me, I will persevere because of my heart and because of my belief, because of it's my identity. It's not something that I just switch on. So the first thing is language. You want to use powerful language. You want to use a language that commands certainty within inside of your soul. Something that really speaks to you. If I'm a cussing Christian, I say, because I love God and I fear God. But when I'm getting up in the morning, I got to motivate myself with sometimes with the F yeah, because sometimes it just takes that much energy for me to will through. And I'm okay with the judgment. I don't got to be perfect. I just got to persevere. So my language is super important, that I resist any opposition in front of me and I stand for myself. And that's why we lean into these things called contracts. That's why we lean into these things called stands. If you're on this call and you watching the replay or whatever it is and you want to know what that is, talk to Margarita. It's she can help you with all that stuff. So as I look at that, I was like, all right, language. First thing you guys get to do is identify your language. Where are the loopholes? Where's the negativity? Where's the stuff where you're not speaking faith and freedom into your goals? Where are you speaking resistance? Where are you saying I have to, I need to, I got to? Because that's just saying that you're not all in. Because make no mistakes, when you start to persevere, you have to accept the challenges. You have to accept that there's going to be challenges, because no matter what your intention is, there's always going to be something that comes and faces your way every single time. Nothing ever goes as planned. So in the beginning, you got to lean into your intention and you got to accept that it's not going to be perfect. And you got to commit to yourself that no matter what comes up and no matter what happens, that I will persevere. Perseverance is not a single thought that you're sitting in, it's moving forward. So make sure you're in your language. And if you don't have the language to empower yourself, I encourage you to get somebody on the phone, get a coach, get a mentor, get Margarita, because she will ignite the stuff out of your passion and your purpose. And to make no mistake, I'll come in here and I'll light up your passion and your purpose, because the second pillar that comes in after the language, after you got to really ground yourself in your language and your mindset, is the belief that it's actually going to happen. Your purpose is your identity in motion. Your identity in motion, you only move, you only hit the goals that you believe in. People always quit when they lose belief. So you have to anchor in and you have to know that, hey, I'm accepting and I'm committed to whatever goes on, that I'm committed to the end result, to my intention. And that I'm going to solve whatever problem comes my way, because I believe that I can figure it out, and I believe in myself, and I believe in the power of God. I believe in the power of my community. I believe in the power of you. So you get to believe. You get to believe, and you get to lean into your purpose, and you get to find out what you're really made of. Because make no mistakes, as you solve these problems, you're going to build character. You are going to build credibility, and you are going to build a community. And when you step into your belief and you do that, you're going to see you're not alone. And perseverance is another game when you're not alone. It is so much easier when you can call a mentor or a coach like Margarita to be like, hey, shit's hitting the fan right now. My electricity's out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit my engagement. I don't know if I'm going to be able to honor my commitments. I need some help. I need some support. Light me up, because I don't think I can do this. Because it's not all magical, right? And I know I can count on that from you, Margarita. So thank you. All right, you know what I'm talking about, right? So belief, purpose, because that belief, that problem solving, you're going to have to endure some shit. You go out on your path to your purpose and you get ignited, you're going to have to deal with some shit. You are going to have to endure. You will get your ass kicked. You will have unfavorable results, and things may not work out your way. And that's okay. Because that's what all the greats do. They're problem solvers. This is all we do. It's our lifestyle. We move from one problem to the next, whether it's our own or others. That's just what leaders and master leaders do. That's what global game changers do. They serve wherever they're at. So I won't go down that road, but belief, purpose. You get to build the identity for you to endure everything that you're going through and everything that's going to come your way. So, because you're going to need it. And as I'm looking at that, and people are like, yeah, but what if, and I thought about it, I was like, well, people are going to be like, well, what if I don't know what to believe? What if I don't know my purpose? What if there's nothing that's tugging at me and I'm just completely lost in the sauce and I have no direction and there's nobody in my corner and I don't have any money to get a mentor or a coach? What do I do, Henry? I'm in that situation. Well, not me, but I'm saying you may be in that situation. And something that I tell people that I coach is the only way, if you're in that situation, the only way to know what you want is to know what you don't want, to know your non-negotiables, and to know what you're not going to accept, what you're not going to do. Build your beliefs and your purpose off of what you refuse. Because if you refuse something, then you stand against it. If you stand against it, then you believe in it. If you believe in it, then it's a purpose. And if it's a purpose, then it has an identity that can move, that you can put in motion. Is this landing for y'all? Wish I could see your faces. Maybe I'll watch the replay. But get the energy, all right? Because this, make no mistake, you have this energy inside of you. Margarita will ignite it. I'll ignite it. I'll ride with her. I'll make some offer at the end of this where you can contact me and Margarita, where we will come in and we will light your ass up, where no matter how you want it, and get you to persevere, because your passion and your purpose matters to us, because we know what it's like. We encourage, this is what we want. We want people like you out there to go and get your dreams, get your goals, and we know you don't know how. That's why we're having these workshops for instruction, education, information, inspiration. So learn, get your identity and your belief system off of what you refuse. If you stand against whatever that is for you. We can go down a rabbit hole all day. Maybe me and Margarita will hold a workshop to go deeper into your passion and your purpose. I would love that. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. So what the best thing is, how am I on time? How am I doing, Margarita? Am I okay?
You're good, love. You have about 10 minutes.
10 minutes, right on.
Sorry. Yeah, like about 5 minutes, actually. Sorry.
5 minutes? Perfect. I think that's right where it's at, because perseverance requires a fuck around and find out mindset. You're gonna fuck around and find out if you're made for it or these problems. You have to accept yourself. You have to be determined, and you have to be patient for your goals to come through, because it does take work. But let's shift a little bit and talk a little bit more about your identity in motion. All right. People get stopped from getting their identity and claiming their identity all the time. It is scientifically proven. Fear is something that we all deal with. The fear of our choices, the fear of what we do, what we've done, what we're going to do, if we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. There's fear everywhere. Is there fear? Am I paying attention right now? Am I afraid that I'm going to be late to my next meeting? Am I afraid that the people later in the day at the workshop are not going to be there? Am I afraid there's not going to be an audience? Am I afraid my partner's not going to respect me at the end of the day after I work my ass off? What type of fears are you dealing with? You're going to have to face them. And you're going to have to find out what your identity is made out of. So like I was saying, identity, fears. The two biggest fears in this world, and everybody knows this. Number one is public speaking. Number two is dying. Now, we can generalize those and cliche the stuff out of those a million different ways from Sunday. But when I hear public speaking and that being the number one fear, I hear that as a fear of people claiming their identity, of people stepping into what their identity is. Because if you know who your identity is, you'll tell any and everybody. You'll get on any stage. It doesn't matter if it's valuable to them or not. You will just come because it's authentically flowing through you. It's who you are. It's your purpose in motion. Because identity is purpose in motion. So as you put this purpose, this identity in motion, you get to claim your identity. You get to use your voice, and you get to profess it out there to the world of what you refuse and what you stand for, and see where it takes you. Because there's nothing more refreshing than knowing yourself and knowing who you are. All the greatest philosophers and everybody from the history of time is know yourself. So you can have your identity, because the second fear is dying. And when I hear dying, it's not just like, oh, how I'm going to die. I hear that people fear dying without an identity, without knowing who they are. There is nothing worse than dying, not knowing who you are and what you did on this earth. So I can get why those are the two biggest fears. And I can understand with anybody and everybody that that's the struggles we all deal with. So what step are you going to take towards your identity? Are you going to claim it right now by facing the number one fear in the world, using your voice to get on stage and speak and let the world know about your pain and your passion and your purpose and your perseverance and the power of where in the fuck you're going in your life? This is what you get to do. This is the power of identity, purpose in motion, is you move with force and you command certainty everywhere that you go. You speak it into the ethers everywhere that you're at. God knows what I stand for right now. Everybody that's around me knows what you're going to stand for, because what you're going to do is you're going to get up and you're going to stand for something today. You're going to refuse all the negative thoughts that come into your fucking heart and your mind, and you're going to refuse everybody telling you you can't do it, even the stuff inside. And you're going to stand up today, and you're going to think about this moment and say, I don't want to die without claiming my identity. I don't want to die without knowing my identity, because that is a slow death. You're already dead. So stop being dead in the water, get out of the drift, stand up, and just let the water flow on by, and see that the flow of the water and everything does not hurt you. You are divinely protected. You are a child of God or not. That's just my belief system. Sorry to throw it on you guys, but that's just where I come from. I believe in you more than I can even believe in you. So for the sake of you and others around you, get out of your shit. Stop thinking about your problems. Fix your language. Solve the problems. And persevere for your purpose, your identity, emotion, and claim your freaking identity. Take your life back. Take everything that you want. Go get it one step at a time, just by saying it first. Face that first fear, saying what you truly feel or what you refuse, what you stand for. It's in here. It's not out there. So I love you guys. I believe in you all. And I know I haven't said it because that's just who I am. My name is Coach Henry G. Margarita introduced me. I am a coach, a speaker, an entrepreneur, and I'm just a believer in great people that they get to live and claim their identities. You get to speak up. You get to stand for something. You get to enjoy life. You get to feel love. You get to feel passion, but it starts in here. If you're starting out there, get a coach, get a mentor, because everybody else it spins you. But either way, I just want to thank you for your time. If there's any questions or anything from Margarita, I'm open if I have any extra time to take a question. But yeah, so, well, hold on. Here we go. One last thing before I go. There's this thing called the I ams, right? I am powerful. I am loving. I am caring. I am a giving, loving, powerful leader. And what I want you to add into that recipe is I want you to add you are's. So like when you're looking at yourself right now in the Zoom, you don't got to tell us who you are. I am. You got to look yourself in the Zoom and say, you are magnificent. You are passionate. Henry, you are passionate. Margarita, you are passionate. You got to look at yourself and you got to confess it. You got to command certainty. That's the last little bit of language. I just wanted to keep pouring you more. I will keep going all day. So thank you for this opportunity, Margarita. If you guys want more, put a Henry in the chat and I will put together a workshop with Margarita and we will get lasered in there and we will dive even deeper because trust me, I know it goes deeper. So love you guys. Appreciate you. Look forward to our next interaction. And yeah, God bless. Thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me be me in my identity.
Wow, Henry, so powerful. I definitely get to work with you further. Oh my gosh, can you tell people where to find you and what kind of work you are up to and what your next public appearance will be in the stages? Is there a website?
Okay.
Or social or somewhere?
Right now, I just got an Instagram. Like I'm just going and contributing everywhere that I'm at right now. I got my landing page and everything that's being constructed right now.
Great. So what's the name on Instagram?
Yeah, on Instagram, it's at the true Henry Garcia. Yes, thank you, Beth. Appreciate you support.
I just wanted to give you some. I mean, you had a lot of really great golden nuggets, and I wanted to present some of the things you said. Is your purpose is your identity and motion. I was like, wow, beautiful statement. Because so many times, like you said, we get caught on like, what's our purpose? And then we get so focused on like figuring it out that I love that you just gave us permission to be.
Yeah.
And I loved also that you said that we get to accept challenges because they are going to happen. The bigger game you play, the more that's going to show up for you. And also those limiting beliefs will start screaming at you more because they want to keep you safe, right? They're there to keep you safe. And the other one that I love that you said, which is so key in helping us build our identities, is to know your non-negotiables. I thought that was a great takeaway for everybody. And the I am statements, putting it into the you are. And it's like, it's so powerful and inspiring to empower. But yeah, the secret sauce to perseverance is showing up was another great takeaway that I had. It's just showing up. Because I, as I said earlier, sometimes when you show up and you give a smile and you're there for someone, it can really make a difference. And then it also empowers you to show up more, and again and again and again. So I just want to say thank you so much for showing up so powerfully and giving generosity. And I look forward to collaborating some more with you as we move along. So thank you.
Sure, thank you guys. Thank you.
So that brings me to a thought that I had, how little we spend on having a vision for our lives. You know, sometimes when we think of a vision, what do you think of? When you hear the word, do you have a vision? I think a lot of times people don't really can wrap their mind around like, what is that really? A vision? What do you mean by that? And there could be a vision for everything. If I wanted to sit down and have a conversation with my husband about enrolling him in a possibility, I get to ground myself in what my vision is for that. What's my intention behind it? Because when you have a vision and you know your intention and what your end result is, you really ground yourself in how you get to show up, your ways of being to create that possibility. But and also like what we talked about with Eric about being neutral about the outcome. And there's power in that. Is there anybody here who doesn't have a vision that would like to be empowered by evoking it? I'm going through, anybody? Well, I'm sure after my next guest talks, you'll definitely be jumping in. So the vision for me, when I got really grounded in why I'm doing this work, I was propelled forward into action, even though I was scared AF to do it. I'm still scared. I'm surprised I'm actually sitting here calm as like a sleeping, I don't know, whatever's calm at night. And it's not because I'm not scared or freaked out. It's because I'm trusting that my purpose and my calling is way bigger than me. Because if I get nervous, I'm making it about me again. And this, what I'm up to now is not about me. It's about you and the people out there who are struggling and suffering and taking their lives. I was going to take my life, but I was too chicken shit to do it. And people sometimes say, oh, that's such a cop out. But I actually think it takes courage to take your life. For me, that's how I see it. I think it takes courage to be like making that decision to say I'm done. Because it's the one thing you can't come back from. You know, I remember watching a movie, I think it was a documentary about the Golden Gate Bridge and how many people jump off of it. And there is actually a very tiny fraction of people who survived. And those people were interviewed and they were saying that at the moment that they jumped off, they regretted it. The moment they were free falling, they were like, holy shit, what did I do? And that brings me to what Henry was just talking about. The fear of public speaking and dying. You don't have an identity. I was like, whoa, body chills galore. Like, I think those chills lasted for like 5 minutes, Henry. I was like, powerful, fear of dying without an identity. And that goes back to like having a vision. Purpose is your identity in motion. I'm going to take that, Henry. I'm going to fly with it. I'm going to be quoting that one. I'll be like, my friend Henry, man.
Hey, it's all good. We can make it the title of the next workshop. It's all good. It's meant to be paid forward.
Yes, I love that. Great generosity. Because, and there's power in numbers. And I think that's why, like, when I called on my PhD 9 master leaders in the making here. Well, we are leaders, but we're stepping up our game. And when they were all a yes, I mean, I called everybody the day before my first day. And I was in committed action. Because I was like, how can I make this be so impactful and give in generosity to the world that is outside of me? And I was just like, I've always wanted to collaborate. Because I feel like that's where the juice is, as my friend Paula loves to say. The juice. That's where juice is, like collaborating with people. Because when we hold somebody else high, it just empowers them also to just keep paying it forward. And it empowers you because you feel powerful to be able to be that for someone. You know, nobody likes to get pulled and dragged to their greatness. We get to support them and hold them in their light. When's the last time you actually called someone and said, hey, did you know that this is why I just love and appreciate you? You know that when I hang out with you, this is how I feel. Like, I always feel this and that. You always help me with this or that. And I just want to honor you. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up the way you do, because you make a difference in my life. I did that recently, and I called someone who I hadn't talked to in a little bit, and it's not somebody who's like a friend in person. It's somebody that I created a connection with through some of these training rooms, and I see her and her greatness, and we just connected. And I called her up, and I was just like, "Hey, girl, how you doing? I was just saying that you were in my heart, and I was thinking about you, and I just want to see what you're up to. Have you been living in that dream and that vision that you created for yourself? Have you been living in that? Because you're so great, and I want to support you. And I just want to tell you, like, you matter to me." And you know what she responded? She's like, "You don't know how much I needed to hear that too. Your message was divinely timed." And I was like, yeah, that's the way the world works. There are no coincidences. So just imagine all the times that you've missed an opportunity to reach out to someone who's popped in your mind. They popped in your mind for a reason, guys. Energetically, they're calling for you. They need you. There's something that you can provide for them to help them shift their way of being, empowering them into action, or just being a bucket for them to hold. Right? So I just want to empower you today. Who's in your heart? Write them. Imagine getting a card in the mail for no reason that just says, "Just thinking about you, want to let you know how awesome you are. Love you." When's the last time you sent a card just or a letter to anyone? Like, writing a letter feels so personal than just getting like a text that feels so like disconnected to me. And that was one of the things that my mentor said to me. You get to break through in calling people because your way of avoiding is sending a text. And I was like, wow, you're so right. It's because it's easy. I don't have to sit there and talk to you and get in a conversation. Like, even though I want to, but do I want to? Because obviously I'm not showing up that way. So at the holidays, when you know how you feel stressed and overwhelmed and hopeless, remember there are other people just like you who could use a kind expression of love and generosity. Because the next call that's coming is for you. The next call is coming for you and lifting you up. That's how it works. That's how it gets paid forward. When you show up, people show up for you. Just like all of you have shown up for me today. And yesterday and the day before. And that's because of how I've been showing up for them in support and generosity. And that's new for me because that's not what I had to be. And that's not what I was experiencing up until then. So with that leads us to opportunities and possibilities, which is our next fabulous guest speaker today, Paula Margulis, who is a game changer. Paula can affect a 1% pivot course correction, upgrade, and up level by creating opportunities and possibilities while leading through limitations and obstacles. Paula guarantees a new idea leading to a new game. New game equals new results. So true. A business marketing graduate, Paula brings a strong marketing background to her current real estate and networking business, having worked at Toronto's prestigious real estate marketing firm, P&B Marketing, where she worked as project manager in a myriad of high-end projects, including Yorkville Corporation's high-profile Museum House, Channington's Developments Electric City, Centex Developments, Waterways of Muskoka, and Bright Star Corporation's Crates Landing. Paula's developed a robust sense of the real estate industry. Now and for the past 12 years, Paula has worked alongside her partner and mom as one half of the Working on Common Ground team. I love that name. As a seasoned full-time sales representative with eXp Realty, serving the GTA, Paula is expanding and building her empire, which includes Chief Networking Officer of Total Knockout Referrals and founder and CEO of Paula Nation, spelled P-A-W. and Foundation and Sanctuary. Yes, please help me welcome my dear, amazing, energetic friend, Paula Margulis, to the stage. Hi, Paula. Thanks for being here.
Hi. Hey, folks. It's Friday. Can you feel it? Okay, well, I feel like we've been on some journey, haven't we? We've heard some pretty intense things. I feel like I got a lot so far today. And so I feel like me in this position, in this moment, I feel like I come from like a holistic foundation approach and close the loop. So I find it fitting that I get to be the tail end of this journey for you all. So let's dive in, shall we? You're in the school of you. Yeah, that's what personal development is. You, personal development. You are developing you. It's pretty basic, wouldn't you say? Okay, so how many in this space, hands up, think or feel that you are tuned in to you? Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, well, we're gonna explore that. We're gonna dig in. There's always room for growth, wouldn't you say? So today I'm gonna open up opportunities. I'm gonna open you up for opportunities and possibilities. This is sort of after a long time what I've been able to suss out for myself and for what I'm able to create in others. Opportunities and possibilities. Are you ready? Is everybody ready? Okay, awesome. So Blessed Margarita, who invited me into Shining Bright for you folks today, offers me the opportunity to share with you my gifts. And she's already given you a bio of how I exist out in the wilderness. Well, how I exist inside of me is I'm a loving, vulnerable, powerful leader. I've chosen this personal development game for 10 years. I celebrate 10 years this year. I also celebrate $150,000. Yeah, that's what I've done. That's my self game. That's my personal development journey. And so you might be asking, 10 years? Oh my God. Yeah, the onion continues to have layers. Yeah, and you already know when you choose you, you're choosing your vision. When you choose you, you're choosing your assets and your gifts and your blessings and the treasure that is you. That's what you're choosing when you choose you. Okay, so then that means that there's some juicy things inside of you. Do you have full access? Do you have full leverage? It's opportunities and possibilities. We'll dig in. So, in order to peel away the layers, in order to access this treasure chest that is in you, things get to happen. Fair? So in my language, in my world, in my experience, I call this my house. My house was dirty. My house was loaded. I was a loaded gun before I chose me. And I've been choosing over the last 10 years to clean my house. My house is clean. Is yours? We'll find out. So, I discovered that the way to access knowledge of self is to look at self. That's what coaching is for. Brings us mirrors and feedback that show us how we're being, how we're creating, if we are, and what are our limitations and obstacles. Awesome, juicy. And I love awareness. I love awareness because it shows me my actualization as Paula Margulis, a loving, vulnerable, powerful leader on this planet. I want to see myself. So I have a developed process that really, really helps me. Quick, instant gratification, self-awareness. And I'm going to share it with you today. So today, we're going to look at 5 different aspects of your life. And we're going to shine a light. and we're going to notice, and we're going to discover, and we're going to learn. And then once we have awareness and some self-actualization, we're going to take home some opportunities and possibilities. Sound good? Is that everybody in it to win it with me? Woo-hoo! Yes? Okay, awesome. So you can join me in this journey with a pen and paper if you like, or you can just be in the space and let your inner brilliance, aka the soul's wisdom, aka your inner child, answer for you. Opportunities and possibilities. So let's get to it. So like our first brilliant speaker, my co-captain of HCL 48, landed relationships, right? Our whole life is a relationship. Our whole entire life is about relationships. Relationships with your husband, wife, with your children, with your parents, with your friends, with your acquaintances, with your teams, with money, with time, and more importantly, in fact, the most important relationship is with you. I have goosebumps all over my body. That's the only relationship that matters today. Relationship with you. And we're going to have a deep dive into how that looks. So, without further ado, let's discover, let's look, let's shine a light, let's illuminate you and your greatness and show you what is possible, shall we? Awesome. So if you've got a pen and paper, if you want to be that person, jump to it. And the rest of you, let's just go with the flow, shall we? Okay, so let's look at you and your family as a relationship, cool? And how you show up and how you create and how you exist and how you be there. So, relationship number 1, family. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you are intimate, you are in the know, you have 10 out of 10 relationships with your siblings, your parents, your children, your animals. 10-10 looks, you've got quality time, you've got intimate time, you are heard, you are understood, they are valued, you guys are sexy. That's a 10. 1 is none of those. Where are you in relationship to your family? Take a minute. Awesome. How's everybody doing? I still see some heads down. So we're going to pin that for a second, and we're going to move on to the next awareness in relationship. So the next relationship that I'm going to ask you to tune into are your friendly relationships, your friends, your best friends, your acquaintances, however, more specifically, the ones that you will get to be intimate with, best friends, close friends. Think of them now. 10 looks like you are intimate with them. You know them. And if I ask them, they would say that they feel heard, they feel seen, they feel acknowledged, they feel loved, they feel appreciated. So do you. You guys connect. There's no time lost. You feel great. You feel seen. You feel heard. That's a 10. And 1 is none of those. Where are you in your relationship with your friends? Take a minute. Cool. Cool. We're going to move on. Yeah. I feel like you've been super primed with today, getting into your heart space, into your love space. And I feel like the little girl or boy version of you and your soul's wisdom is right in your ear. Perhaps. Let's move on. Now we're going to look at your relationship with money. This one is juicy because my experience of human beings is they didn't even know that they have a relationship with money, or that you could have one, or that one exists, whether you're playing love, generosity, or not. So let's look at your money relationship, shall we? A 10 is you are BFFs with money, and you are in love. Money comes to you in all ways, and you live abundant and you are prosperous. That's a 10 out of 10. 1 is none of those. Where are you? Take a moment. Awesome. Cool. We got 2 more to go. Now let's talk about time. Your relationship with time. Let's paint a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 with time looks like you've got lots. Time to spare. Life is long. You've got time. You can do it all. You can collapse time. You can create time. Time and you are BFFs. Time, you do not elude time. You are prompt. You are punctual. You've got lots of space. Feels good. That's a 10. 1 is none of those. Where are you? Cool. And now my favorite, the most exciting of them all, the most potent, most important, most valuable relationship of all is with you. So let's shine a light, shall we? A 10 out of 10 on you. A 10 out of 10 looks like you hear everything. You know everything about you. You have access to your treasure chest. You are intimate with your assets and your gifts. You are connected to source. You are tuned in and you hear your intuition right here. You have a relationship with your undesirable aspects in a way that's pleasant and joyful and loving. Your self-care game is strong. Your self-care game is strong. You are healthy. You are in love and you are in generosity. That's a 10. 1 is none of those. Where are you? Okay, team. I'm going to invite some shares at this moment in time. I am dying to hear some feedback on what's coming up for you. Are you noticing some revelations? Are you noticing that your interpretation of your relationships is not what you thought? Are you noticing that there is a gap in any of those relationships? Are you noticing some synergy in your qualifications of your relationships? I'm curious. Hit me. Let's go.
I'll go if no one else is coming up yet. Yes, I realized I am an 8.5 with self, which is gone up, which is amazing. But like I'm just in the middle with everybody else. 6.5 with my family, 5 with friends, only because I don't connect with them as often as I'd like. But when I'm connected, I'm listening and they feel seen and heard. 4 with money. And I've gotten better with time, but it's still a 6.5, right? Intimate with time, not showing up late, not feeling overwhelmed, but I get to be intimate with it. So that was my takeaway was in the gap is just really stepping into myself and figuring out like how I can be a 10 out of 10. And for me, that looks like asking my friends and family, like, how can we have a 10 out of 10 here? And then for myself, what's in the gap? What is still in the gap to make me a 10? And I think for that is just being my word, which is a big one for me. Being my word and doing and acting on the things that I have set out as goals for myself.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing, Margarita. So with money, with self, you gave yourself an 8.5. Awesome. Now that speaks volumes, wouldn't you agree, on your relationship? Yeah. So like 8.5 reveals to me that you are almost living your best life. Is that accurate? You are. Is that honest?
I'm almost living my best life. I mean, I want to be living my best life, not almost.
Okay, so let's clean that up. Are you living almost your best life? Because 8.5 reveals almost, right? That reveals like you're right there. Like I give myself, Margarita, a 9.5. Why? Because there are things that I have yet to achieve that would satisfy my purpose and mission, right? So having not created that is the 5% what's in the gap, right? Like I'm not fully actualized. I'm not fully realized. And I'm definitely not fully empowered because I haven't discovered all that I get to discover, hence why we're here. So I'm going to broach the subject again. Do you honestly, in your heart of hearts, feel like your life is an 8.5 out of 10?
My life or my relationship to myself?
Your relationship to self. Because that is your life.
Right. Yeah, true. Yeah, like I'm starting to question that now. It might drop half a point or 1 point.
So just notice, right? Just notice, like this is not a right or wrong. This is about realizing you, right? So the only person you're lying to is you. The only person you're negotiating is you. The only person you're deluding is you. The only person that's suffering is you, in denial of you, right? So like 10 years ago, my numbers were 1, 2, and 3. Who with money, who with time, who with my family, who with myself, poo, caca. And like, I just was so unsatisfied there. So I was like, oh, something's got to give. Something's got to change. And the only thing that's available to me is me. So, Margarita, because I love you and because I care so deeply for you, it would behoove me to leave you in your story of what's not true. Cool. So we're all loving here. We can be vulnerable here. Be honest with yourself. The little girl version of you deserves this awareness. It's like big M. I need you to see me. I need you to acknowledge me. I need you to see what's happening here. So if we're going to be real and loving of self, Margarita, let's cut the shit. Where are you?
I like a 7.
Okay. You see now how a little more opportunity you give yourself? You claimed 8.5. You squeeze the opportunities. You give your 7, you go, oh, there's more. Fair? And that you deserve that more, right? Don't deserve to put a noose around you. Oh, I only need this little bit. No. Be generous with yourself so you can create more. Awesome. Who else would like to share? Beth.
I would like to share my numbers.
Oh, sorry, Edith. Okay, continue. Come on, Edith, and then Beth.
Yes, we had many conversations about my relationship with money. So at the moment is at about 3. So I have huge opportunities there.
Does that not feel great? Just take a
It
second
does
here. Does it feel great? It's just like, oh my
I'm
God, I can do so much and be so much. Yay.
When said that, yes, it opened up so much. So thank you for that. And relationship with me, I would give myself 5. From probably 2 years ago, I was at about 1 or 2. So for me to go to 5 is huge. Time is 6. It has been 1 as well before. Family 7 and friends 8. So friends is the top of the top, creme de la creme, and there is still things to be improved.
So let's look at your repertoire, shall we? So my experience of the delivery of your awarenesses is that everywhere else but with you shines brighter than you. Wow. So you invest more energy to everything else but you. And notice the relationship with money, because you and money, not tight. Why? Because you and you, not tight. Right? Like nothing will be sexy unless you are sexy. Facts. What you turn into, what you create is only as good as you are as a creator. So if you're not creating, you're not creating. Caca, that's no bueno. And so, my love, Edith, I love that you already have a juicy story as it relates to what you get to create for yourself, right? Because this game of life is about you. Like, I know that we get all these different pieces of stimulation and information. It's like, no, leadership is about everybody else. No, personal development is about you. It's like a lot of influence. And I'm just going to break it down to brass tacks. We breathe air for this body. We have this soul for this life, right? And if you don't nurture that, what are you nurturing? Because that's what it's about. You. So, Edith, my love, we're going to offer you some opportunities and possibilities into how to squash that gap after we get a little more feedback from the rest of the team. I'd love to hear from Beth. Thank you, Edith.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm seeing